Hi there, folks. Thank you for joining our webinar today. We have our special guest, Hanapin Marketing, here to discuss some strategies. Obviously, what you don't know can hurt you, so we put together 4 PPC advertiser insights that everyone should know. We're excited to get kicked off this morning for you guys. On the line here to present, I have Shad Powell and Nava Hopkins. Nava is our customer success rep here at WordStream. She manages tons of really detailed, high-level accounts and gives so many awesome PPC strategies to our clients currently. Shad Powell is an account analyst at Hanapin Marketing and also a regular blogger on PPC Hero. Shad focuses on paid social strategies and technical troubleshooting. He also is tied down to some data analysis for his Hanapin clients. So welcome, guys. We're so excited to have you here on the call.
Thanks. Yeah, we're very excited to contribute and to be as helpful as we can.
Yep, absolutely.
So now that you know a little bit about us, we want to know a little bit about you guys. So I'm going to launch a poll here, and if you don't mind giving me a little bit of detail about you, that would be great. So people that are on the line, how long have you been using AdWords? Is it less than a year? Are you just starting out? Have you been kind of in the weeds for 2 to 5 years? Or are you that real expert that's been in this industry for over 5 years? Kind of across the board so far. Looks like about 48% of the people on the phone have been here for less than a year. So really cool. I think this presentation will give you a lot of context and strategies that you'll be able to implement in your accounts right away. So thank you so much, guys, for letting us learn a little bit about you. And without further ado, I will pass it off to our team here. Nava, if you want to kick us off, we're going to talk about account structure, budget, ad copy theory, and quality score. So let's get going.
Definitely. And just so you guys know, we will have a Q&A session at the end. But if there's a burning question that you have, please feel free to chat them through so that we can know kind of what the general priority is for questions. So let's take a look at account structure and the different campaign types. So when we're looking at an account breaks down very simply into different campaigns that will have different targeting metrics, whether it's oriented around the auction price, the different location that you're serving, whether it's around a different idea that you might be working with, and we'll get into the specifics of those in a moment. But those campaigns host your budget, and those in turn host your ad groups. So it's really important to remember that keywords and ads don't live in a nebulous kind of purgatory on their own. They all have to belong to an ad group, and those ad groups all belong to campaigns, and that budget on the campaign must be able to support the ad groups. So it's just to make sure that we're all working off of the same baseline. Wanted to make sure we have this diagram here so you can get that sense. So my golden ratios, and I count these all the time to my clients, and I cannot tell you how by just living by these ratios can really move the needle on your accounts. Campaigns to ad group, one campaign should not exceed 7 ad groups. The reason for this, those ad groups are all fighting for that same budget that you issued to Google. And if you have more than 7, it's really hard for that budget to meaningfully support each of those ad groups. On a similar line, no more than 30 keywords per ad group. The reason for this, just like that budget can't support multiple ad groups, Google likes winners. Winners have good metrics. And when you start to exceed that 30 keyword ratio or even that 7 ad group ratio, there might be a few skews in the data. There might be some discrepancies where maybe 2 or 3 keywords are running away with your budget and the rest are kind of living in obscurity. On a similar note, sorry, I heard a note. I should speak up. And on a similar note, we want to make sure that there are no more than 2 to 3 ads per ad group. Data integrity is paramount in pay-per-click advertising. And when we start to exceed those 2 to 3 ratios or any of these ratios, we're going to go on a slippery slope to budget being wasted. So here are my strategies. So we at WordStream are in Boston, so Tom Brady could be replaced by any of your favorite quarterbacks or what have you, but we have our consistent Tom Brady. He is the bread and the butter. He constantly delivers, and you can, once you have him proven and trained, you can have him just be replicated throughout your account. When it comes to your brand, that's your cheerleader. Her metrics are going to be off the charts. And you know what? It's good to have your branded campaign there. You want to make sure that you are owning your search result pages when someone searches for you, particularly when you're first starting out or your brand is first coming into inception. You're going to want to make sure that you own that page, your competition isn't, and it's not just social media. Branded campaigns are an absolute must. Now, my two favorite kind of black sheep of the family, the competitor campaign, where you're driving up the cost of your competition's clicks, as well as sniping their traffic. He's my ninja. He's a lot of fun, and you can do some really creative things there. And then finally, for the mad scientist of our campaigns, the research campaign, this is where things can go kind of crazy, but in an amazing way. You're either maybe looking for retargeting fodder, so you're going to get leads that are maybe top of funnel, not quite the right fit for a Tom Brady, but the perfect fit for the mad scientist, or you're testing out a new idea. You saw in your search query report from a Tom Brady or a branded campaign that, you know what, this is the way people are searching. I want to test out a campaign going this way. So how do these campaigns relate to the different structures within an account? Well, let's start with our Tom Brady, a product and service campaign. This is an example of one of my clients. They do window washing and gutter cleaning. So you can see window cleaning, gutter repair. Now, the way they have this targeted is by location. So they have each location they serve with these specific ad groups. And you'll note the metrics on these look fantastic. You have average position. You're in the right average position. You're not too high that you're paying a premium that you don't need. You're right in that 2 to 3. You're getting the click-through rate of being on top. You're getting the benefit of ad extensions, which we'll talk about later. And look at that ad group, or look at that ad. Neglecting gutters can be costly. BBB, A+ rating, call for a free estimate. Right here, like this is right what the person wants. It's a Tom Brady kind of campaign. Now our cheerleader, this one I'm very proud of. This is actually a Shark Tank client of mine, Rent Like a Champion. So Rent Like a Champion, the branded campaign, this is focusing specifically on the branded campaign. Notice how much exact match is going on here. Branded campaigns are about your brand and celebrating the different ways people might search for your brand, as well as the values that are related to your brand. But you want to be really targeted. You don't want to have a lot of broad match going on here, because especially if you found a domain name that's very product or service oriented, those clicks could run away with your budget, and you end up wasting money that should be going into your general and product service campaign. Now, our competitive campaign. This particular campaign, you'll notice that the ad groups are each a different competitor, and that the keywords, the structure remains the same. You're focusing on things like scam. Think of the competitive campaign not just like a ninja, but like a politician. You're bidding on keyword concepts that are smear. You're looking to snipe people who are on the fence or not happy with your competition. But the ads that you have, they're not putting down your competition at all. They are looking specifically to make you look good when the prospect is on the fence about your competition. Now, our mad scientist. I picked this one as for the mad scientist because they were actually testing within the same ad group, which is within itself a research campaign type of idea, the product number as well as the specific way someone might type out the particular keyword. And this happens to be a motorcycle company. So you'll see on exact match you have the specific way that they're searching for it, and then you also have the skew. So again, the bids are lower here. The budget is lower here because you're testing ideas. You're looking to see, is this how people are searching? Is this profitable for me? And again, look at this ad copy. Lasts 50% longer and arrives charged. Happy kids equal happy parents. That does not follow the basic rules of ad copy engagement. That's going more off of a research idea. That's experimenting with ad copy in a really meaningful, powerful way. And so I'm now going to turn things over to Chad to discuss Facebook.
Hello, everybody. So with Facebook, a lot of the things that were just discussed by Nava absolutely apply to Facebook. It's just a different platform, so we just have to understand some of the differences in how we manage our ads and how we advertise. So first off, I just wanted to start by going over some numbers. First, Facebook is a mobile-first platform. That's really important to understanding how to use Facebook and how to advertise. So I just wanted to put some numbers out there that even though they have 1.4 billion monthly active users, 1.3 billion of those are mobile monthly users, and that comes from their second quarter of 2015. And you can see the growth numbers there. So Facebook is really about mobile and mobile phones, and it's a great platform if you want to get in front of people on their mobile phones. And it's a platform that seems to have really figured out mobile. Second, Facebook is an awareness-generating machine, and by that I mean that it is meant to get in front of lots of people, and it's meant to have your ads get likes, comments, shares. They can go viral. People can like them and then share them with a friend who sees that their friend liked the ad, and then they check out the ad and they click on it. So that makes it a really interesting platform. So some basic tips for how to structure your accounts in Facebook. First, just like in AdWords, figure out what your goals and your key performance indicators are. So what do you want from Facebook? What are you trying to do? And how are you going to measure it? And then how can Facebook help you? You have to understand the platform. This is a social platform, and what metrics we do and don't have. But if you're looking for customer growth, you're going to structure your campaigns one way, and if you're looking for incremental revenue, you're going to structure them a different way. Growth is all about getting your ads in front of people, introducing your brand to new audiences, and it's going to be less efficient from a cost perspective, but it's all about that reachability and getting lots and lots of impressions. Incremental revenue is going to be more about having efficient spend, sticking to a strict sort of CPA goal, and that's more in line with remarketing. Which is why the second point here I said, if you want to test Facebook, if you're not active in advertising in Facebook and you're a little nervous about sort of getting your feet wet, remarketing is a great way to start in Facebook. You can do, if you're in e-commerce, you can do product remarketing, so you can tie your ads to a feed and show people things that they looked at on your site. If you're lead gen, you can remarket based on where people have visited on a website, and that will allow you to sort of really test out Facebook, learn the interface, see how it works, and see if it works for you. Second, segment your mobile and desktop. As I said in the last slide, mobile is what Facebook is. It's over 90%, well, probably more like 80% plus of their audience uses mobile on a daily basis to interact with Facebook. So you're going to want to make sure that you segment out so your budget and your efforts are broken apart by mobile and desktop. And third, understand your clients and customers. We don't have the intent that we would have in a search engine. We don't see keywords. We don't know what somebody is specifically looking for. What we have to target is the audience itself. Whether it's demographic variables like gender, income, education, behavioral targeting, interest-based targeting. We can target things like whether they like certain pages, whether they have gone, whether they it's a million different ways you can target them, but it's all based on their audience. Purchasing behavior, all sorts of things. And you can create your own audiences based on effort or how they interact with your site, what pages they're on, whether they look at certain products, and things of that nature. And if you're not sure what audiences to use your remarketing. If you step into Facebook and you're testing with remarketing, you can then use insights from those people that you've remarketed to, who've done things on your site. You can use those insights to help build future campaigns and craft out your audiences to target.
All right, guys, we're now going to get into the money. We're going to start speaking about budget. So these are the questions I ask every single one of my customers before we begin, because any online marketing effort, if you don't begin with these questions, there's no benchmarks, there's no way to actually prove that this was profitable. So what are our customers worth to us? And this is going to be particularly important for our Tom Brady. When we're structuring our budgets and understanding what we're building, if we know that certain customers are worth more to us, maybe they should be in their own campaign. Does seasonality impact my business? Should I have a more dynamic and fluid budget because I know that certain seasons are my peak seasons, or other seasons, really it's not as important. They should be used more for those tangential research, maybe experimental ideas. So is the conversion a true conversion or just the beginning of the sale? And I know this can be really frustrating for those service-oriented folks out there where it's true lead gen as opposed to in e-commerce, I check out, I know money happened. I cannot express enough how powerful PPC and social, search and social are as lead gen tools when you're in the service industry. It's incredibly difficult to compete out there organically, and when you're able to back up the power of your amazing referral network with a really good PPC and social campaign, and you're able to track that conversion and have that conversion be, yes, it's a form fill, yes, it's a phone call, but it's not necessarily money in your pocket yet. You're able to distill who is meaningful for me to target and how can I make sure that I'm making the most of my money. So a few side notes. Make sure that when you're setting your budget, that daily budget that you set, Google's going to try to average that spend over a 30.4-day period. So it could go up 20%, it could go down 20%, but that's monthly spend that you have is Google's attempt to hit what you put as a daily budget. So when we're setting our budget, think of that as the number of clicks you can fit within a day, and the majority of your tinkering is actually going to be on the max CPC or the MCPC. For budget, again, number of clicks that fit in a day. So how do these budgets break down across our four characters here? So Tom Brady, I always put the bulk of my money there, whether that Tom Brady is a shopping campaign, a product campaign, a service campaign, a location campaign, whatever he is, I want him having the majority of my money. Branded campaign comes in second with 15 to 20%. You want to make sure you own your brand. I know it can seem like, why am I paying for my own brand? Those metrics will be phenomenal. And someone who may have heard of you before but doesn't quite yet know, or like maybe is thinking tangentially about you, they see your ad, which will come above your organic listing. You're able to guarantee that traffic. In terms of a competitor and research campaigns, these numbers are a little bit more fluid. I typically like to see 15 and 15, or maybe 15 and 10% for the research campaigns, because these are ideas. These are experiments on the research side. And on the competitor side, because the metrics of competitor campaigns are inevitably less, so like you'll see a lower quality score, you might see less clicks, but when you get a conversion off of that, when you get those clicks and you drive up the cost of your competitor's traffic, it's great, it feels great. You do want to have some budget allocated there. So I always recommend that we start small with our budget. So you're going to begin low. You're going to start by testing. Even a Tom Brady will begin as a test because you're not yet sure how many clicks you need to get to your site to lead to that conversion. Conversion rates on landing pages are historically low. Like 1 to 5% in some industries is a great conversion rate. 10%, 20%, we throw parties. But when it comes to growing, when that account and those campaigns become more mature, that's when we start ramping up the budget. And our converted clicks grow. So as soon as we see that a certain campaign type, its structure, its keywords, its ad groups, the way we've structured everything is beginning to lead to conversions, we want to up that budget. We want to throw more money behind that strategy. And as I mentioned, don't be afraid to move your budget around. So I divided these into quarters and like the traditional way that we think about quarters. But if your year plays out differently, by all means, move it around as is. So like shopping, historically, Q4 is amazing for shopping campaigns because that's when we're all shopping. In the summer, travel, beachwear, like that is prime time Q3 for like when you're going to get all of that profit. A lot of service industries, so when you're thinking about redesigning websites, when you're thinking about bringing on any agencies to do work for you, any consulting work, business work, B2B, like Q1 and Q4 are actually more that time because it's Q4, that's when you want to get your planning done for Q1 because people have finished their budget but they're planning for Q1 for those expenditures. So just be mindful of the trends that impact your customers so that you can be in prime position to own them. And now again, Chad, budgeting on Facebook.
So Facebook budgeting, you hear me say it all the time, but it's mobile. It really is about mobile. And so when you're trying to figure out how to move your budget or how to set your budget and where you want to focus it, first and foremost on Facebook, most of your traffic, most of your volume, your conversions, your leads, and things like that are come from your mobile campaign. So for most brands and services, make the majority of your budget go mobile. cost per clicks tend to be cheaper on Facebook, at least currently. There's just not as much competition as there is on AdWords, but that's quickly changing, so I don't expect this to be the truth for much longer. But you can save some money on clicks, which leads to a little bit cheaper conversions and leads. So take that into account. If you don't have quite as much budget as you want to spend in Facebook, or you're trying to figure out how to balance it between, let's say, desktop and mobile, that you can get some traction with a little bit less. And lastly, be aware that even though a lot of the traffic is mobile, there are certain types of companies and services where desktop can still perform well, especially if it's a B2B. If you're selling products that businesses would buy rather than consumers, there's a good chance that you'll find some performance on desktop. And you should always have desktop and mobile running and budget accordingly. But you can find that performance, you can be, if you're not focusing on desktop and you're in that sort of category, you could be leaving some conversions on the table. So you've segmented by device, you have your mobile and your desktop broken out, but you want to do more. You have some more budget to spend, you want to experiment, you want to do some more things. If you're using a market or a funnel-based marketing strategy, so you're sort of seeing growth, and you have like a growth strategy, and then you have your acquiring campaigns, and you're working people down a funnel, you can split your budget according to whatever your goals are. So if your goals are growth, you could devote 70% of your budget to growth-style campaigns, ones that are meant to drive awareness and drive new customer growth and acquisition, knowing that they're going to be less efficient, and drive 30% of your budget toward remarketing efforts, ones that are based on incremental revenue and strict CPA numbers and cost lead numbers if you want to be efficient. On the safe and efficient side, it's sort of the reverse. You're going to devote more of your budget to that incremental revenue, those safe and efficient campaigns, right? These are the ones that are focused primarily on remarketing, but are going to be focused on things where you're adhering to that strict CPA goal, and you're going to devote less of your budget to going after new customers, because going after new customers can be more expensive. You just have to be aware that you're not going to be filling that funnel in that case. If you're being more safe and efficient, you're not putting as many people into the top of that funnel who will then get pixeled and then end up being in your remarketing campaigns.
All right, so we have the fundamentals down, we have our budget, we have our structure. Let's get to the fun part that we all love, which is ad copy. So within ad copy, it's really an art and a science, because there are certain rules of engagement that it's not that we have to follow, but 9 times out of 10, if you want your ad to perform well, you have to follow certain rules of engagement. But then there's the creativity within there. And there's a growing push towards automation, but I do stand for the idea that you craft your ad, because ultimately, you, the business owner, or you, the agency who's the champion of your client, will know your client's business and their brand aesthetic and their brand terminology better than any algorithm could possibly know. So be mindful that this is an art and a science. When we think about how ads should flow, like these are my top 5. Obviously, we could dive into this and have an entire session around ad copy, but just make sure that if you do nothing else with your ad copy, that your headline flows really well with your line 1. Granted, this is not for click-to-call campaigns, because click-to-call campaigns, obviously, the headline is you click the headline and you call. But for all others, like let's try to make sure that headline flows well with line 1, because when you punctuate your line 1 and you're in the top 3 positions, so on the search result page, top 3 get special perks, that line 1 will actually join the headline. So you can have a really powerful 1-2 punch just by making sure that you punctuate line 1 and they flow really well. And that's also why you want to make sure that your keywords are really well situated within the headline and your ad copy, as well as your display URL. You are totally allowed to have a keyword in your display URL. All that has to actually lead somewhere is your final URL. The domains just need to be the same. Make sure that you capitalize the first letter of every word, but you don't use all caps. Google will disqualify you like that. And I did a little sister snap, because they're so aggressive about this that there are brands that actually, they're all caps, will get disapproved, even though that is how the brand presents itself. And you have to do a whole bunch of jumping through hoops just to be able to present your brand the way that you want to. So just be mindful that there are certain rules of engagement as much creativity is involved in ad copy that you really do need to follow. And just a final note, and I listed it here so you can read it, but there are certain concepts that you'll want to talk about. So whether it's 24/7 support, whether it's that you receive some award, those belong in your ad extensions, not your ad copy, because your ad copy should really be grounded in how people are searching, i.e. the keywords in your ad groups. So one of the reasons why Google has, and to be fair, Bing has been doing this too, one of the reasons why Google has been so good about coming up with new and exciting ad extensions is because they really want us focusing on keeping those keywords grounded, or ad copy grounded in keywords. And of course, we want to make sure that our landing page keeps the path to conversion concise. So your keywords should support your ad should make a promise that your landing page delivers on, and really try to keep that path to conversion concise, whether it's a call or a form fill. So I brought a couple of examples of clients whom I love very, very dearly, and how their ads actually represent them. So want a pest-free home? Who doesn't want a pest-free home? These guys are a great pest control service in Florida. Safe treatments and free estimates, no risk guarantee, call today. That is a really powerful ad. Like, in knowing who this is, like, that unequivocally represents who Safer Home Services is, and just by seeing that ad, you start to get a sense of how wonderful. Go to Africa. Get the best Africa safari advice, and they do offer phenomenal advice. Book your safari vacation today. This is a really powerful ad that does two things. It instills the sense that, yeah, when you're booking with them, you're getting premium advice. It's not just you're going to get a package and be dumped somewhere. It's really going to provide that hand-holding service that they provide. Sussex Chef, barbecue wedding catering, real charcoal, serious flavor. I mean, that is a powerful line. That is a line that ensures that, yeah, you're doing a barbecue wedding, but it still conveys the professionalism and elegance that Sussex Chefs represents. We already talked like a champion. They're great. But this is where I was talking about with ad extensions. So when you have that ad in the top 1 through 3, you get the benefit of callouts, of structured snippets, review extensions if you have been reviewed by a third-party source, site links that should enhance the path to conversion, whether it's also a call extension, a location extension. Guys, I promise you, if you have a location extension, unless you're concerned that people won't drive to you to do business with you, include it. It is a free way to take up additional real estate on the page. It is incredibly powerful. Additionally, the structured snippet, this is such a great way to ensure that you can showcase what it is that you do, the services that you provide, and really consolidate your account so that you're only bidding on the concepts that are truly profitable. And then a final note about, and this is just to show you what happens when you break ratios. You can A/B test ad all you like. This is like the one time you might want to turn on rotate evenly. Otherwise, rotate evenly, I don't like it. I think that it ignores the data that you've paid for. But when you exceed those 2 to 3, none of your ads win. Look at all these beautiful ads that got nothing. That's a very sad predicament. So A/B test. Create a whole separate campaign where you're testing ad copy, but don't force your amazing keywords that you've worked so hard to make those ratios work, fall down at the ad copy, and have Google not serve what you need to have served. So Chad, you want to take Facebook ad creation away?
Sure. The one thing I wanted to mention before we move into this is that in AdWords, one of the reasons you create all those extensions is to also take up a lot of real estate on the page. When you go to Facebook, you don't have extensions. You don't have any ways to take up extra space. So one of the analogies I like to make is that the image well, I guess it's not really an analogy, but the image is what extensions are in AdWords. The way you take up more real estate in Facebook is not by literally taking up more of the page, but it is by having that image, that colorful, that playful, that artsy image, something that describes your brand that people will want to look at. And so that creates a little bit, that's one of the differences in Facebook, and as we're going through these slides, just kind of think about that, is one of the big primary differences between text ads and image-based ads. So in terms of crafting good ad, or a good ad in Facebook and what that looks like, remember the platform itself. This is a social platform. That means that Facebook is used for sharing and your community, particularly maybe your business type stuff, but it's all about sharing things and allowing that to get passed around. We lack the intent in Facebook of the search engines. We don't have keywords, we don't have phrases that we can target. And so we can't know exactly what somebody's looking for at any given time to target our ads toward, but the reach of Facebook is immense. And the ability, as I stated earlier, to go viral, to have your stuff be shared, linked, or be shared, commented, liked, all sorts of different things, is really, really important part of the process. Because if I share an ad that I thought was really neat with somebody else, not only do they see that ad, but they see that I shared it with them, I liked it, which lends trust automatically to that ad, because someone they knew shared it with them. Yet it's still an ad, and when that person clicks on it, it's still going to be treated just like an ad in any other shape or form. You have to grab browsing. So people that are using Facebook are not searching for information necessarily. What they are looking for is, they're looking at their friends and family posts. Maybe it was a wedding or a baby shower, or somebody got a new dog, or things of that nature. That's the kind of stuff that people are reading about and they're learning about. And so you have to tailor your ad to pull somebody out of that. So as they're scanning through that feed, you want to be able to have them stop and consider your ad. So what I ask is, what would grab your attention? That's what's really important. Think about it. When you're crafting ads, think about what would you click on? What would grab your attention on that feed? So here's a couple examples, and all of these images that I pulled of different ads are just pulled from Facebook. I've been collecting ads as sort of a category, or as a library of ads that we can use to help us inform our own strategies with ads and help show clients different types of ads they can create. So these are two that I pulled, Southwest and Dollar Shave Club. Dollar Shave Club's well known for their sort of goofy advertising that gets them a lot of attention. But at the end of the day, Facebook starts with images. You want to introduce your brand in the image. In the one on the left, the Southwest ad, you see that plane with the Southwest colors and the Southwest logo. Not only did they put their logo, but they have a whole plane in the ad. So you couldn't brand yourself much more than that. As far as Dollar Shave Club, it's a little less obvious, the branding in that. They do have an icon in the bottom right. The box, I think, says Dollar Shave Club on there, and things of that nature. But you always want to include that in your image somewhere, even if it's in a corner, because if somebody's scrolling through their feed and all they're seeing are the images, because those are really the things that pop out at you before you stop and take note, you want at least to make that association with that image with your brand name. So even if they don't click the ad at that moment, at least they still can remember the name of what they saw. And this goes with all display type advertising. If at all possible, avoid stock images. If you compare stock images to non-stock images, most of the time you can spot them. You can tell the difference, and you can tell that it's that somebody just picked up an image off a website or bought an image, etc., and used it, and it's not necessarily tied to their brand, and that can create a lot of issues in terms of just not really showing and showcasing your brand the way you'd like. And lastly, as far as ad copy goes, really craft or match the ad format to what you're doing. So in the top here, you can see we have the carousel ad. These are a more recent ad format in Facebook, so users actually have to engage, so you scroll through it. So you can see here, these are like these wedding ring style things from this company called, I believe it's pronounced Qualo or Qualo, I'm not positive. But this is you can scroll. So you can see on that right-hand side of that image there's an arrow. And so you can scroll, and you can show up to 5 individual images of products. And you can tailor the messaging under each image. You see the call to action button there. Here it's Shop Now. They have a whole variety of call to action buttons. But this is great for e-commerce. Why? Because if somebody looks at products on your site and then they are on Facebook, you can use this format to remarket to them exactly what they looked at on your site. So if they looked at, in this case, this product, maybe I went to this site and I looked at these specific products. Now they can show them to me when I'm on Facebook. And they can say, bring them to top of mind. Maybe I'll reconsider purchasing them if I did in the first place, and things of that nature. But it's a really good format for that. And you can tie it to a product feed and to your website through the pixel that you place on your website and the feed you upload to Facebook, and you can tie it all together in a really nice remarketing system. The other way is brand awareness. And one of my favorite ways of brand awareness is the single image format. You can use carousel ads for your brand awareness and put different images in there and list different bonuses or value propositions to your service or product. But for me, when you're really just trying to pull somebody out of that feed and they don't know who you are and you're trying to introduce your brand, I see that big, bold image as a really good way to just get somebody to pay attention. It fills up the entire, that entire rectangle in the feed. You can make it really colorful. You can make it pop out against the white background. You can do all sorts of things with it. Put your brand in there. Have pictures of happy people. Whatever allows people to recognize or invest sort of in checking out your brand. But I think it's a really good format for that. Just remember to always include your brand name in there along with the image.
All right, guys, before we jump to quality score, which we strategically put towards the end, so A, you would hang around for the whole thing, but B, it's of questionable merit. So dynamic keyword insertion reminds me a lot about Chad's comment on stock images. So there is a concept in search ads of dynamic keyword insertion where you say, I want my ad to match to this concept, and like the entire search query will pop into the ad. The problem with those is you end up potentially getting bad grammar and ugly ads. Ugly ads are worse than having just, I don't know, a badly formatted ad. So just be mindful of that. Steer clear of stock images. My personal feeling on DKI is that they're equivalent, but there are some folks who use them to great effect. So quality score, and then beyond that, relevancy score. So I see quality score as a report card of doing everything else right. So all of these pieces that we've been talking about, campaign structure and account structure, ad copy to landing page and keyword relevancy, being mindful of what the click-through rate is in your account, and like the overall click-through rates of all of your different campaigns. These all lead to your quality score. And what's really interesting, and we've started to see this across many of our clients, is that when you have a higher quality score, your campaigns or your new campaigns will start off on a better rate. Now, everyone will panic and want to have a 10 quality score and be position 1. I'm here to tell you, don't chase those goals. They are meaningless goals. What you should chase is profit. And here's why. When you have a quality score of 5, Google will grant you that discount on your cost per click. When you have a quality score of 4 or less, that's when you start seeing the premiums on your cost per click. So yeah, if you see 4s and less, totally make it an initiative to work on it. But when you start seeing those 5s, those 6s, if you want to see them grow, work on making sure that your keyword relevancy is there to your ads. Look to see how big your ad groups are. Look to see if maybe you want to add a branded campaign in so that the overall click-through rate and quality score of your account goes up. So here's our friends, Tom, the scientist, the cheerleader, and the ninja. I'm here to just tell you the competitor campaign, unless you live with amazing competitors who have names that are very close to your keywords, unfortunately the quality score there is going to be a little bit lower, but you're sniping traffic. So what's more important, a high quality score or money in your pocket? Tom Brady and the branded campaign, they're going to have what we would like to call passable or good or even excellent, especially on the branded quality scores. The research one is the wild card. It could be great, it could be really low. But again, what you're testing for isn't quality score. What you're testing for is keyword structure, the type of audience that you're going after, any different piece that you're testing with your research campaign. Now, before I do pass it over to Chad, I don't see quality score as the goal. I see it as, again, the byproduct of doing everything right. So if you take nothing else away from this, just be mindful that your account and the work that you put into your account, if you do everything right, quality score will happen. When you stress about quality score and you try to cheat the system, that's when you start getting dinged. So Take it away, Chad.
Gotcha. So everything that Nava just said about quality score resonates in Facebook as well. They don't call it a quality score; they call it relevance. They got to have their own term for it, but it's the same thing. And what does it really mean in Facebook? It's just like AdWords quality score. It's an attempt to measure audience response. It's calculated after you achieve 500 more impressions, and it's on a scale of 1 to 10. So if you create ads in Facebook, once they reach 500 impressions, Facebook is going to try to predict how users on Facebook are going to respond to your ad based on those 500 impressions, but it's also going to try to predict into the future how they're going to act and assign you a relevance score. And that score, like I said, it can be 1 to 10. And it's supposed to give you an idea of how well your ad is resonating with your audience. How can you use it? Well, just like AdWords, a higher relevancy score can lead to more impressions and cheaper CPCs. It can be an indicator of ad exhaustion because we're targeting an audience who's going to see our ad and could see it more than once. If you had a higher relevancy score, say you had 6 or 7, and then you notice that over the span of a few days it's starting to decline, that could mean that your ad is exhausted. It's shown to this audience. It's showing it more. The audience is becoming exhausted of seeing it. It's not new. It's not fresh. They've seen the deal. They've either clicked on it or they're ignoring it. And the lower declining relevancy score over time can be an indicator of that. It's also can be an interesting way to look at your creative if you want to run different ads or run the same ad targeted at different audiences. You can see whether you have a higher relevancy score according to if you target this ad to this audience or to another audience. But the same warning that Nava mentioned, I will mention as well. It is not the be-all, end-all in Facebook either. We've had campaigns with clients that have a quality score, not a quality score, relevancy score of 2 or 3, and still are meeting our goals. They're getting conversions at good cost. They're getting a very good amount of impressions. They're reaching a lot of people. But we're still seeing a score of 2. Now, we do try to tailor our audiences a little bit smaller and try to get them more focused. We do test and swap in and out ads, but just because you have a little bit lower quality score, or 2 or 3 even, which isn't great, doesn't mean that you can't still get the performance you want. It just means that, try to optimize and see if you can raise it if it makes sense to. We're not going to go ahead and pause an ad that's getting us a good CPA or a good cost per lead, or it's meeting its return on ad spend goal just because it has a low relevancy score. Ideally, we'd love to see it be higher, but if that's not the case, we'll still let it run. And a good relevance score with a high bid will beat out an excellent relevance score with a low bid. And that's, again, no different than AdWords, that you can have an okay relevancy score and a really high bid and show everything you need to show.
All right, guys. I'm actually making the poll wait because there's one final disclaimer I must give you. And I know I said this, I think, twice now, if you take nothing else, but this one's really, really important. If you make edits to your keywords or your ads without pausing the old and adding the new, you will lose all historical data on your account. So for those of you that stayed through to the end, this is your golden tip. When you are working on your accounts, do not make changes in line. Pause the old, add the new. If you are seeing ideas for the search query report and you want to add a keyword type or you want to add it on a different match type, pause the old, add the new. Because I've had 5 different conversations over the maybe couple quarters where people had spent 5 years on accounts, or they had thousands of dollars that they've invested into seeing their PPC success, and it would go away not because of changes in the market or because of trends, but because of a simple change match type. Now, Google will warn you of this. It says, if you change it, you are going to take it out of Google's index and it will lose all of its data and be resubmitted. So please, please, please be mindful. If you're changing your keywords, if you're changing your ads, pause the old, add the new. You can change bids without worrying, but match types, changing the language of the keyword, changing the ad copy, even just mobily, making it a mobile preferred ad, you are going to lose your data. So without any further ado, I'll pass it over.
Awesome tip, Nava. Thank you so much for that. And so for everybody who's on the call today, WordStream and Hanapin have put together an offer for you guys. I'm going to launch it here. If you would like to have a free account assessment from WordStream, you can feel free to select this option currently. And then if you have an account that's over $20,000 in ad spend, Hanapin is offering a free account assessment for you as well. So go ahead and feel free to opt in to either of these offers, both offers, whichever you prefer. We can all give you a really detailed analysis from a few different points of view, which is great. So feel free to take advantage, and I'll give everybody a minute to do this. We are going to have a Q&A here in a second once I finish up this poll here, and I have a ton of really awesome questions from the audience, so thank you everybody who participated and dropped some questions. While the poll is going, if you do have a last second question you want to toss in, feel free to go to the chat box and send us a question. And finally, we will be sending a recording of today's session to everybody who had registered for the event, along with our slides. So I know a few people were curious about that. All right, so without further ado, I will close the poll and hop into our Q&A session here. Thank you guys for all of your tips and strategies today. The audience does have a good variety of questions, so I will kick it off with, let me go to the top here. This one is for Nava. One of our users on the phone has 20 or so photography service ad groups location-based to a campaign. To divide it up based on your 1 to 7 theory, what strategies should you take when diving in, or simply should you break it up?
That is a phenomenal question. So if I were running this account, I would look at the locations that were profitable, pick maybe 3 or 5, and make campaigns around the locations and ad groups around the different services. So as a photographer, you might do studio work, you might do wedding work, you might do headshots, all the different services that you offer. Each service is an ad group under a locations campaign. You then can have super targeted ads showing for just the folks that are in that area. You can also take advantage of the incredible deal that is the keyword near me. Near me, given the mobile age that we're in, is one of the best ways to take advantage of long tail search. And when you break up your keywords and you make your campaigns location-centric, you can repeat concepts across different campaigns. When your campaigns all target the same place, they're entering the same auction, you'll hit duplicate keywords and bid against yourself. But when you break up your campaigns by location, you'll be able to take full advantage of all the different markets, compensate for the different budgets that you'll need for the different locations, and really find that winning structure. I hope that's helpful.
Great tip, Nava. Thank you so much for that. Now, Chad, I'm going to toss this over to you. We did have quite a few Facebook questions come through. This one is in regards to crafting good ad copy. Facebook's 20% ad text rule is very random. A big hurdle at this stage of creative design. You're never 100% sure if it'll go through or get flagged. How do you personally best navigate a situation like this?
I'm sorry, can you say the very first part?
Sure. So the user is commenting to say that Facebook has a 20% ad text copy rule, and they're saying that the number is a little random. What do you do to kind of get around this, or what is your best strategy for kind of navigating those structuring tips?
Yeah, as far as the, if I'm understanding the question correctly, is within an image, how much text you can have in an image, and getting flagged for it. We've dealt with this actually recently. We've had some ads get flagged with having too much text, and it absolutely can be random because they're telling us that it's 20%. To me, it looks like there's barely any text in the ad yet. It's still getting flagged. First off, there is a little bit of glitchiness in Facebook with regards to that. I believe, and so sometimes we'll resubmit ads and see if they'll go through the second time. So always try to do that if Facebook's giving you an error like that. Sometimes they'll actually go through the second time. But besides that, I would say that I wouldn't put a ton of text into the image itself. I would focus on including my brand name, so whatever your company name is, include that in the corner, and maybe some text relating to the offer. There was an image in the slide in the presentation from Southwest Airlines. It's actually one of my favorite images that I've seen, and they actually include quite a bit of text, but you can see it's sort of shrunken down into that square above the plane. And they probably don't count the text that's on the plane. I'm guessing that's not triggering any kind of filter. And actually maybe even the non-stop is not triggering any kind of too much text filter because it's actually encased inside that block of color. But try to really think through why you're including the text and what it's doing, and if you can cut any out. I much favor in the images to not fill them with a ton of text if you don't have to. You really want to capture attention with lots of color, lots of images that are based around your products if you're selling a product. If you're a service, try to think through providing images of people using your service, with smiles on their face and they're happy and things like that. But if you can't seem to get those ads through with your text, you're going to have to try to reduce it. And I would really look to some of these pictures from this presentation. These are all ones that got through and they had varying levels of text, and see if any of those types of formats can help you. And like I said, this Southwest one has what I think is an appropriate amount of text to showcase their deal, but it doesn't overly fill the frame, as you can see.
Thank you so much for that, Chad. We appreciate your comments. Nava, I'm going to turn it back over to you. One of our users wants to know, how does brand increase quality score? Do you have any idea and some tips for that?
Sure. So if you remember the conversation around how keyword to add to landing page, the more relevancy that's there, the higher quality score you'll get. So in branded campaigns, it is the easiest to develop that relevancy because the keywords are your brand. So you're featuring the brand probably not only in the headline, probably not only in line 1, your display URL and your keyword, or in your final URL. It's also going to be on your landing page very clearly there. Someone is searching for those concepts relating to your brand, so the click-through rates are probably going to be higher. So all of the components that go into a good quality score are what make branded campaigns function. So for all the naysayers of branding campaigns, like, oh, why should I bid on my own brand? Well, when you're struggling with quality score and like the other pieces it's taking a longer time, having a campaign in your account that does have that higher quality score has been known to show that it increases the overall relevancy and Google's high opinion of your account. So when other campaigns are struggling, just introducing, even if you put it as a less percentage of your total spend, it really is a powerful move that you can have, just because the keywords to add to landing page relevancy is the cleanest and clearest it will be across your entire account.
Wow, great tip. Thank you so much, Nava. We have so many questions, guys. Thank you so much for everybody who is participating. Chad, this one is for you. Our user is wondering about the Dollar Shave Club ad. Was that a mobile ad? They noticed it didn't have a CTA button and the formatting looked a little different. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the Dollar Shave Club was actually pulled from a laptop when I was on Facebook pulling ads for his library I was accumulating. I did notice a different format. I am unsure whether is it testing a new format or how that worked, or if somehow they loaded an image that just showed up like that. But I did see it. It is not the typical format of what they typically allow. That Southwest ad is the typical single image format. That's the 1200 by 628, I believe. So I am aware of that. I'm not sure why that specific format, why it's different. So I don't have a great answer for that. But I would say that image does make sense that it would have came from mobile because of the format. It looks like it's squeezed from mobile, but it didn't. So don't have a great answer for that, unfortunately.
Interesting, and Nava commented to say maybe it's a boosted post, possibly. Not sure totally, but we do appreciate your comments, Shad. We'll take 2 more questions from the audience. Again, thanks guys for flooding our gates with so many awesome questions. Hopefully we are being super helpful. Nava, what should the strategy be for budget if a client has a very low quality score and the landing page is terrible and that client wants to increase their conversions yesterday? Is there a good strategy for getting that to actually take place and get some results?
So my first question is, does this client take phone calls as conversions, and how many and what are we tracking as a conversion? So a lot of times clients say, like, I want conversions yesterday, but depending on who they are and what they do, so I don't have like a concrete answer for you in terms of the specifics for your client, but like just some ideas off the top of my head. Hey, call tracking enabled, any kind of call tracking enabled, because if you can defend the traffic that's going to them both from form fills and from calls, especially if the landing page is terrible, win. Also, that click to call campaign I was telling you about, particularly if they are a service, the user's not going to see that terrible landing page. And I mean, like, yeah, I'll totally plug the fact that WordStream recently launched a landing page tool that is mobile responsive landing pages. So if you take advantage of that audit, like, that's a thing that you can ask about. But in terms of other it's not quality score, it's about what keywords are we bidding on. So like if this person's conversions come from a very specific area, you might want to bid more aggressively on that area. If you're inheriting this account from another agency, it might be worthwhile looking at maybe the past year's dimensions and looking at the times of day that yields the highest clicks, or the days of the week that yields the highest clicks. So typically clients who are conversion hungry, but their performance has been like lackluster and their budgets are maybe questionable, usually it's useful to put a schedule on there so that you can then have a bid modifier on the times that are their power times and really have that budget be useful, as opposed to I'm blanketly advertising and I have no idea. But like I would really actually appreciate if we could like follow up and I can give you maybe some more tactful strategies, because like that's a really good question, but without the specifics, I can't give you a really specific answer.
No worries. And you know what? I'll move the slides ahead so you can see, guys, if you're not getting your questions fully answered here, because we are almost at the top of the hour, feel free to reach out to Chad and Nava on Twitter. Both of their handles are here if you want to get some of those specifics or get anything else answered that we weren't able to cover today. Definitely shoot them a note on Twitter. You know, with the amount of questions we have, we might even be able to pull together a blog post and do some Q&A follow-up for you guys. So thank you so much. I think I'm going to leave that as our last question for the afternoon. So guys, thanks so much for participating and staying on board with us today. I think that there were so many great tips from both Chad and Nava, and we're so happy that you guys pulled this together for our audience. So thank you so much, guys. We look forward to seeing you again soon on our next webinar. And for now, that's all. We're signing off. Bye-bye.